Hey, been exceptionally busy this week. How are you folks doing this fine Monday? Oh my God, I exercised and sweated my guts out yesterday. I'm happy that I landed a really nice product gig. There are going to be 12 elaborate setups of a product for a company. I wanted to talk about the Fujifilm as if I haven't made enough videos about Fujifilm already, but I like to take an interesting, different angle about it. I get a lot of phone calls, especially from people I don't know how they got my number, but also too an enormous amount of emails from first-time Fujifilm users, or including a couple famous photographers that have switched to GFX. One guy, I'd like to mention his name. He's a famous photographer. He prints really, really big. And I've done some tech support for him on the GFX 100. This is my GFX 100. This is also, too, what I'm doing the product photography with. I've also, too, had to, which I'm going to bill the client for, buy some background elements for the composition. On one of the product shots, the client wants a wooden background because it corresponds with that product. And today, for example, I picked out this gorgeous piece, and also too sanded it. This gorgeous piece of Potowick wood. That's what it's called. I might be mispronouncing it, but it's Potowick. So I actually had the orbital sander out today sanding this, and I get to keep this. So I get to charge the client for this, but I get to keep this, which is always nice. And so I'm going to be using this in the background on one of the product shots. I've also got two more pieces just like this back there. I love product photography. The setups are elaborate. Some of the products are very valuable and have to go on site to do the photography, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I'm being compensated for it, so that's fine. But I'd like to show you two cameras, two specific cameras, and it's just meant as a general statement. Here I have the Fujifilm X-T4, and here I have the GFX 100. My favorite camera in the whole world is the GFX 50R, as I've said, earnestly and honestly. And it's like, well, this is a much better camera. It's better for low lights, backside illuminated sensor. It has IBIS. This is all true, and yet the GFX 50R, which is on sale now for $3,500, is just a simple brick of a camera. Everybody should buy a hand strap for it, by the way. The Grip Belt GB001 is designed for the XT1, but it works beautifully on the GFX 50R. As someone that's owned countless cameras and thousands of lenses, and I just sold off like nearly 300 lenses. I had a nearly $1,700 FedEx bill from shipping off so many lenses, and I still have like 280 some lenses left. Well, I'd like to make a bold statement, because someone could always say, something. It's like, well, what's your opinion really worth? I mean, how much have you owned? Someone's like, this is the best lens in the world. It's like, well, how do you know? You haven't really owned that many damn lenses to actually make a statement about the lens. But we take a look at just these two cameras alone. For example, the GFX 100 or any GFX camera. I mean, Sony and Canon and Nikon's not making medium format. Here we have the X-T4, and it's of course undeniable that Fujifilm doesn't have the hardcore, really hardcore sports action wildlife lenses. However, they are coming out either at the end of this year, probably next year. The 300mm f4 and the 500mm 5.6 telephoto lens, and the lenses for Fujifilm X mount. And they've already got the 200mm f2, which I have, and also to the 100 to 400mm. But the truth is, and Fujifilm's not a perfect company. A lot of people have falsely and egregiously accused me of working with the company, and I don't work for Fujifilm. Okay, I don't work for Fujifilm. I make videos, from my heart and from my mind of the experience that I have with them. Is that I have everything covered here to do really everything. The only thing that I don't have, and I don't do architectural photography, would be a perspective control lens. I know Fujifilm is working on a tilt shift perspective control lens for both of these systems, the GF mount and the X mount. and currently don't have the ultra hardcore primes like a 300 millimeter or a 500 millimeter. And this is obvious, it's undeniable, but I have everything here that I need to do. And you know, when it comes to product photography, your statement, and I know what you're thinking is, well, the D850 is, you've said, meaning me, said that it's perfectly, it's a poor man's medium format is exactly what I called it. And there's tons of megapixels there to shoot large poster-sized prints. However, like the guy that I've been training on the GFX 100, he prints really, really, really large prints. And he's a famous photographer. I won't mention his name. He even emailed me again today. He's got several fine art photography books, and he's a wonderful photographer, but he has to actually have medium format. He actually does have to have it. The amount of wiggle room that you have for correcting things on medium format is undeniable. Anybody that shot medium format, whether it be film or digital, will tell you this. It's not my opinion. It's a hardcore, undeniable fact. The wiggle room you have for product photography, for Photoshop or Lightroom or Capture One, which is basically 98% of what I use now for everything, Capture One, medium format makes things a lot better. There's a lot more wiggle room, and there's a whole lot more croppability. And I have that with Fujifilm. I don't have that if I, crazily love Sony or Nikon or Canon. I don't have that opportunity with them. I do with Fujifilm. Fujifilm's a much smaller company than Sony or Nikon or Canon is, but they have medium format. So for product photography, for architecture, for a lot of different stuff where medium format is a necessity, Fujifilm has it. That's what I do. That is where the money is at in photography. It's not in weddings, it's not in sports action wildlife. I actually know a couple of the best wildlife photographers in the world, one of which is a guy several years ago bought his camera that was up for sale. National Geographic, I remember some of his photos, I won't mention his name. Famous photographer, incredible work, made the cover of National... I asked him, I said, doesn't National Geographic buy you your camera? No, I mean, he struggles to survive, and he's a National Geographic cover photographer. There's just, that's glamorous and it's wonderful and all, but there's no money there. I don't believe in working harder, I believe in working smarter. I got nothing against hard work, but why bust your butt, for something that is incredibly hard to make a profit at? The XT4, I mean, if you think that there's any deficiencies for the XT4, and I've pointed out, issues with Fujifilm. I told them that their lens caps years ago were horrible. They redesigned the lens cap. The only thing that I actually have to complain about on Fujifilm is that their lens hoods, they should do what Nikon and Canon have done, and they use nylon fill and the polymer resin that the lens hoods are injection molded out of, because these are plastic only and they crack too easy. The reason why Canon, you probably don't know this, the reason why Canon and Nikon lens hoods are so tough, and they are frigging tough, is that they stick nylon fill in with the plastic, and it's the same principle as rebar on bridges and buildings. Is that it has the concrete for the strength and the rebar for the flexibility. So it has both strength and flexibility, whereas concrete alone does not, but rebar reinforced does. It's the same thing that happens when you actually stick nylon fill in plastic. So Fujifilm needs to fix that. That's something I've complained about. The XT4, whoops, there we go. I got a Nikon cap on this Fujifilm. By the way. The XT4, a complaint that I had that I pointed out vociferously, should have come with a charger with the camera. I've had a lot of emails from people, so I have never, I've had a few emails from people that don't really know me that well. So, all you do is love Fujifilm. You don't say anything bad about them. It's like, well, you haven't really watched many of my videos, if you think that. But there's no other camera company out there right now that's, kicking it, kicking derriere like Fujifilm is. They're just not. That even though it has a dual card slot, the new Z50 has fallen on deaf ears. It really has. The new Canon R5 that everybody thought would be the second coming, that would walk on water. I just found out a few hours ago that there's not even a heat sink on the main processor because a Chinese, and as someone who used to fix cameras and lenses, I saw the main board, some Chinese group took it apart. Oh, well, there's no heat sink on the main processor. Well, that's good to know. That must be one of the reasons why it's overheating. And there's another circuit board that sits over top of that. So it traps the heat around the processor. No heat sink at all, no thermal paste, no heat dissipation off the main processor at all for sinking into the magnesium chassis. Canon is doing what we call a silent recall on that camera. That's the reason why you can't get one right now. Silent recall. I'm not trying to go after Canon. But really nothing has ever made me as happy photography-wise as someone who went to photography school and worked in several camera stores and processed and printed more film than God, and as someone who doesn't have affiliate links, kind of like the other untrustworthy entities on the interwebs that are always trying to sell you something. You know, they borrow a camera, they tell you how great it is, and that you should click on the affiliate. Then they return it. It's like, oh, it's so great. Why didn't you actually buy it? I buy these myself. I sold off a lot of stuff, and I saved money for half a year to buy this. But, you know, unless I was a rich hobbyist, it's like, well, it's great. You know, I got a medium format GFX 100 with 102 megapixels. I'm actually putting this thing to work. I mean, the big product, the gig that I got, that's not going to pay for all of this, but it's going to pay for about almost 40% of this from the product photography gig that I got. And I've had a couple other gigs that, not that they were 12 shots minimum product shots, but they still, I mean, every little bit pays for it. So make the camera works for itself. It's like how you should do with money. You know, the thing that smart or rich people do, and I'm not either, I'm not rich, I'm definitely very smart, is you're supposed to not spend your money, you're supposed to make your money work for you. You know, it's like if you buy something, so I'm going to buy this tool. With this tool, I'm going to build stuff, and then people are going to pay me, and then the tool will pay for itself. But I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, if it's just a hobby only, you know, for laughs or fun that you do photography, you want to buy an expensive camera, fine, who cares? But I mean, people say, why would you buy this expensive camera? It's like, well, I'm going to make it work for me. You know, it's going to work for me. And it is working for me. I actually even had a discussion with a client today on the compositions on several of the shots. And I said I just bought this piece of beautiful hardwood, which I'm probably mispronouncing, calling it Potowick. Someone tell me if I'm mispronouncing Potowick as the background. We've got a few pieces of this for a background of one of the shots. I was covered in this orange dust today. I was out there on my back porch on the table with my orbital sander, sanding this down. Had to cut it in 3 pieces. It was a big, long piece. Yeah, I get to keep it at the end. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe make a table. That's the great thing about product photography. You charge the client for pieces, and when you're done with it, you get to keep them. Unless the client requests it, you know. But you bill them for it anyway. They only care about the final shot. By the way, as I've mentioned before, never ever, 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 never ever get into printing or do printing yourself. Never outsource printing. Never ever, 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 whether it be wedding or anything, never do printing yourself, ever. That's where 90% of the pain is and 0% of the profit. But on the front of Fujifilm, which is what this video is about, I have everything covered, 98% wise. I mean, lacking a perspective control lens and the 300 and 500 millimeters, which are not out yet. But I have 98% of everything covered with these 2 cameras. However, the camera I grab for most often is my GFX 50R because I love that thing. I've taken it everywhere. I have insurance on all 3 of these cameras. I'm not worried about, you know, I haven't dropped a camera in like a decade, I think. I think it's been over a decade. But I mean, I have insurance on them for drops, loss, spills, thefts, accidents, so forth and so forth. But I'm not saying I don't like ever grab for my Nikon cameras anymore, but I kind of don't. There's a reason for that. Everything is here. It's like, and by the way, once you shoot medium format, everything else pales in comparison. It's like eating at a super fine restaurant. Like, you know, like top 10 in the world. That's what medium format's like. You just can't go back to eating beanie weenies or, you know, hot dogs, or you just can't. It's like, I can't eat this stuff anymore. I've seen the other side. The other side. I've been spoiled. Everybody gets spoiled by medium format. This is the truth about Fujifilm. Like I said, I don't have any affiliate links. I don't work for the darn company. Okay? I don't care what you think of me. You could hate me. You know, okay, fine. You hate me, fine. But you got to admit one thing. The one thing that people really, really love about me, even if they hate me, it's like, I don't like that guy. He's fat, bald, and tattooed and ugly, and he's a little rough around the edges. But I know he's not trying to sell me anything, and he doesn't have any affiliate links. And he's actually been down all those roads, and he has more knowledge about lenses than anybody else on YouTube, or really the internet for that matter. Is that egotistical? Well, it might be, but it's also the truth. It's also the truth. Not mutual exclusivity there in making that bold statement. You're awful arrogant. I don't like you. You suck. Yes, but the real question is, am I right? Am I right? Yes, I've had a lot of caffeine today. But this video is heartfelt and honest. Need to recharge my left battery on this one. I've been using it today. By the way, this is a little trick on medium format GFX cameras. I put a little loop of hook and loops on the front of the lens cap, because when you take it out, if you're clumsy because it's slippery edge, you can actually dip the body cap, excuse me, dip the body cap into, because the hole's so big, and touch the cover glass, i.e. what you're calling the sensor. That way when I actually undo this, I can able to lift it out and I have no danger of flicking the... by the way, the link is below for my free Fujifilm book. I have tips and tricks. It's 230 pages. I cover everything. Unlike other people that charge you for horrific books where they just rehash what you read in the user manual, I don't do that. I didn't write a book to rehash what is in the user manual of your Fujifilm camera. I wrote a unique book with all the stuff that should be in the manual but is not in the manual. So I call that helpful. And somebody like me, you know, takes an enormous amount of time to write a 230-page book and give it away for free. There's one guy that hates me. Somebody give me a screen grab of this guy that hates me. This is a side note. This is really funny. He said, this is so funny. He says, the reason why Ken gives that Fujifilm book away is because it's a collection of copy-pastes from other people's work. I dare anybody out there to find any part of my Fujifilm book that's copy-pasted from any other source. That's what happens when you got people on the internet. They'll say all sorts of crazy stuff. Oh man, that's funny. Every word of that book is mine, girlfriend. I dare you to find a part of it that isn't. I don't know why I mentioned that. It just happened recently. Someone sent me that in a screenshot and an email. And he says, well, who's this guy? I was like, it's just some guy who hates me. It's the internet. If you don't have people hating you, then you are doing something wrong. I could be like if I were like a YouTuber and I was like the hottest chick on earth, and I made videos about fuzzy, cute bunny rabbits, I'd still have a bunch of haters. So, well, maybe not as many. But it's the internet. Oh, God. Anyway, I'm not a guy that's happy very easy. It actually is really hard to make me happy, but nothing makes me happier than Fujifilm. And no, I don't work for the company. I say this of my own free will, and I darn well mean it. Has to be the right tool for the right job. Medium format is a specific tool for a specific set of jobs. You know, even though this is the world's first and only fast medium format camera, I'm not going to confuse its speed capabilities, which is roughly equivalent to the last firmware, depending on the lens used, roughly equivalent to the last firmware of the XT2, as far as speed and autofocus, target acquisition. I'm not going to confuse it with the speed and accuracy of the XT4, or XT3 for that matter. But For medium format, it's smoking fast. Nothing else on earth comes even remotely, and that's no exaggeration, nothing else on earth comes even remotely close to the GFX 100 for speed for target acquisition, whether it be single autofocus or continuous autofocus. Remember to download my free Fujifilm book in the link below in the description. It's completely free. Any donation of it is always warmly welcome. Because I don't sell things and I don't have affiliate links, so I have to spend an enormous amount of time helping people and doing stuff for free quite often, and anything is always helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Luxi Veritas, and wait for it.